Okay, so this is a very complicated urban design project. This is currently Arctic view, but when you switch it to rendered, it looks like a Candyland game, right? It's just too complicated to actually visualize in a render. So what you need to do is isolate out one specific program, just a couple boxes, either it's parking or green space, and just show that one thing in a clean view, similar to some of these. For instance, a green space layer, or a parking layer, or a simple roads layer where you see the lines underneath where the roads are being covered, or just commercial. But importantly, for something like this, it's extremely difficult to show this any other way, because if you do plan, you lose the fact that this is 3 stories, this is 1 story, and this is 2 stories. You would just see the first level. If you did section, there's no way to draw a clean section through these with one line because they're misaligned. You could do an exploded isometric axo where you have the 3 copied above with lines pointing down. That's a good way to go, except it's not really very intuitive. It requires a lot of brain power to process that they're moved down. So I think this is the best way to show something like this, where you have the program highlighted and then this line that shows you where it's hidden underneath. And this is an isometric view. Okay, so what we need to do is first isolate the program that we want to show. In this case, it's the parking structure. Make sure your view is set to Arctic so you have this nice clean look, that the program you want to show is color-coded. And then what you can do is Arctic set object display mode rendered, because they are all on this material, and this material has its color set to bright orange, gold. Okay, so that highlights just that one program in Arctic view, which is a really quick, convenient way to do drawings. You could do that for any of your program that you have isolated. However, this isn't great because it's hidden a lot of the actual structure. None of this is shown, none of this is shown, and this kind of covers it up as well. So one thing we can do to fix that is draw an outline of it and move that outline into the view. So one of the commands that you can use is mesh outline. Select objects and then do mesh outline, but it's a bit finicky. Change object layer because of this, right? It has a weird tendency to not actually trace the object, it traces the viewport of the object. So what you need to do is find a view that you like, let's say isometric southwest, and you can save this in your named views as well. You can say iso southwest, use this for drawing, right? So this is the view that you like. So you'll switch back to this when you want to use the mesh outline. It doesn't have to be ISO either. You can tilt it to an angle you like and then save that as a named view. Or if you dislike the conveniency of not having to open up the named views manager and just doing isometric southwest, and you're back to where you want to be. Okay. So going back to mesh outline, going back to mesh outline, doing select objects of what you want to outline, mesh outline, group them, change them to the layer, they're already on the layer, select objects of this layer, and now what you can do to get it to show up above the Arctic view is do this, and then move them in the gumball directions consistently, so 50, negative 50 because it's the other way, negative 50 because it's the other way, and then go back to isometric southwest. And now the trace outline is above where all of the structures are, so you can see it behind. And to change the line color, you can change this box here. That highlights it as orange. And now you can see the structure behind. But we're not done yet, because there's more you can do. And it makes it really cool if you also create a new sublayer. You can take that mesh outline, because it's a mesh outline, it's planar. So it's a really, actually pretty useful tool, because from here you can just do planar surf, right? And now you have that surface perfectly covering where the border is. And now if you select these surfaces, set their object display mode to rendered, and then set their material transparency to 90/80, they become transparent. And if you give them a color as well, another orange, now you have color coding. So now you have both an outline and color coded and the original program highlighted. So this is a very, very clear drawing, very minimalist, very precise, better than any of the other three options that I mentioned before. I think this is probably the best way to represent this particular structure in this urban design context. And there's actually one more thing you could do if you wanted to be even more precise. So if we open back up our layer manager, you can select the parking structures again and do another line command, which is silhouette. It's the same as dupe edge. It's just a different name for it. And what we can do is move those to a new layer, change object layer. All right, okay. And so what this does, select objects again. What this does is it shows you the levels. If you have your objects divided into two objects, when you do mesh outline, it'll show you that division. So you can see the number of stories very clearly in your line work. And then you do the same thing that you did for the mesh outline. You move it so it's visible above the surface. And change the line layer color to a nice orange to match. So now you can see the number of stories in these parking garages. And that's a beautiful final drawing. And it only took like 5 minutes. Honestly, when you crank these things out, you can make a selection of beautiful drawings in minutes. It's pretty useful.